afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propaganda Fields. Yes, indeed, it's time to look at a new map today. And we are having a look here at the Faymonville approach. Yes, indeed, the Faymonville approach. A much sort of nice, charming place. Certainly of a much different colour tone as well from all the previous maps you saw for a longer period of time actually had. Much brighter, much greener, less brown, a lot less brown actually. But also with a sort of unique set of challenges, unique set of buildings, and sort of different approaches to the maps overall. I mean, generally again, you know, shortest point between the two bases pretty much is where a lot of the fighting tends to take place, in particular due to this particular building here. This is a very good infantry building from here and here, since there's pretty much, you know, 5 windows, pretty much means most infantry squads, except conscripts and the likes, will have a bit of a tricky time. And generally, even then, if you can have a few light machine guns, say it's the airborne or rifleman or whatever, you'll generally be able to make up for that. So overall, it's a sort of very dominant position, though, with a few blind spots here. I mean, in theory, shots can go off here, but as you might be noticing, a lot tends to sort of block for that, in particular also down here. So essentially, this can count as a bit of a blind spot as well. And there's basically also a lot of territory actually to maneuver around on this map. There's a lot of basic, for example, here you can vault around, sneak about, and same around here, you know, sneak about, vault about, and basically also there are 2 cut-off points here that sort of, well, how should one put it? There's essentially what could be described here as sort of a natural fuel and a natural munitions point. Let's sort of go through here. More natural, and the cut-off is close to your base. Same here. But then there's sort of the more aggressive approach, which takes you, for example, to here, which again will then be sort of deemed the other base of fuel, and that's the points then are sort of a bit more aggressively protected and sort of need to be sort of held here, for example, which actually can make it difficult, for example, to play here, because again, if the opponent then holds this area, he can easily cut off the southern area. And same here. I mean, they're both close to the bases as well, but at the same time in the sort of interesting positions. So there are some details here, and certainly wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe wire a bit of barbed wire or some mines as well. Otherwise, there's also some large differences in the fuel points. The northern one protected by a building or under threat by a building, if you will, as well, whereas the one is much more out in the open. So there are some slight differences there, though note the building here is pretty much only really useful for machine guns, light or heavy, since there's only one window at each side that can actually be fired out of. There's also some points here, for example, out at the very far corners, which have a slight tendency of being forgotten, but can still also have a bit of fun there. Same, for example, up here and down here. Munitions also sort of a bit further away, and victory points also some interesting positions. For example, this one under cover of a large manor house, which can be used to, for example, delay and actually cause a bit of a harm. And same here, although interesting enough, this mill here, despite being a good position for heavy machine gun, actually sees sort of rarely any usage there. Infantry-wise, I mean, it has some broadsides, but as you might be noticing, your opponent isn't going to be running around here or here. It's basically here, so this is essentially a machine gun building. If you are going to, for example, hold this, you know, depending on the site, you might want a bit of barbed wire here or here, and maybe also a bit here to sort of make it a bit difficult to sort of directly approach at least any machine guns in there. And we also have a few more unique buildings. In fact, we have this one and this one. And you might ask, what's unique? Well, there's basically only one door. A lot of, you know, the previous buildings always had, you know, 2 doors basically, a front door and a back door. Well, whoever built this building pretty much only figured, you know, Pierre, we shall only have one door. And that's really the story here. And also note, there are not a lot of windows, so it's basically a bit of a heavy machine gun building, if you will. Can essentially cover a bit around here, a lot of bit of blind spots here. Same here, can sort of cover around the area here actually quite nicely here with a bit of infantry actually. But again, there's only one door, which pretty much means if you have to get out in a bit of a hurry, your opponent could basically be waiting outside the front door with a lot of nasty weapons, in which case you can very easily risk losing the entire unit. So there's a bit of sort of a nasty spot there to sort of keep in mind if you want to use the building. This building is also here, I mean, not really much used except heavy machine gun, but obviously you can also just basically use to sort of get away. For example, you pop in here and then you get up there, or vice versa, that way quickly sort of dodging a pursuer. I mean, buildings can be used like that as well. Good mining spots around here, here, and here, basically. Also around here, and also this main road is a good mining spot. There's some good spots here as well, and here and here. I mean, while there's a building at the same time, it also creates some fun. So some really good mining spots here and here and here as well. Not quite as much here, though. I suppose you can try here. barbed wire to sort of cover up here might also work. If you'll have to take a longer path towards here, but at the same time your opponent can't as easily harass your fuel point here, so it's a small detail to consider. And in theory you could also try and wire off here, though that's going to be a bit of a bother. Maybe just wire off the cover and maybe have something positioned up there. Generally though, a lot of combat doesn't tend to happen over here. Again, it tends to sort of gravitate towards the centre and the south. The north, for some reason, tends to sort of see less action. It's occasional harassment. Maybe a vehicle moves towards here to sort of attack from the north, and that would also be a good spot to mine, and here as well. Quick note there. But the building here tends to sort of take a very dominant position. It's actually a bit vital for the player up here to actually secure this building, in particular of an access, because otherwise the allies can easily end up pressuring you early on and cause a lot of havoc. So you're to a certain extent a bit forced to sort of secure this building with an infantry squad until you can sort of either get something up there, or at least sort of, you know, do something about it. So that's a small thought there, of course, as the allies. You can always lay down a demo charge. If you're going to use this building, you know, depending on the site, you might want to sort of wire off here, sort of to prevent a direction of grenade run, if you will, but also here to sort of try and make it a bit difficult, sort of take up and shoot down the building, which can also cause a bit of problem due to the heavy cover and the proximity to the building. And in that case, you might also, again, depending if you're, for example, the northern player holding this, a bit of barbed wire around here to sort of make it difficult to sort of sneak up here and then attack from there. I mean, some thoughts there as well to sort of further strengthen the position. I mean, barbed wire is all about, you know, inhibiting movement and preventing direct movements, basically keeping that in the open for a longer period of time, taking more shots. So those are some details to keep in mind there. That way, you know, you might have a better understanding of the map. As for infiltrators, there is Partizans, Fallschirmjägers, Jägers and all that. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. There's buildings sort of and sheds basically placed everywhere, so there's actually plenty of opportunities to sort of fall back into the back of an opponent, essentially. If you're sort of getting a bit too cocky with the stuff, you know, you might say, oh hey, there's a shed here, meet my friend Ivan or Fritz or so on, depending on the site you're playing. So there are plenty of options in that regard to sort of quickly have an infiltrator appear, cause a bit of harassment, cause a bit of havoc, or for example jump upon a machine gun with its back unwarily towards the tool shed, because no one ever expects someone from the tool shed. So those are some details as well. Fuel point here does tend to see a lot of harassment. It's also a bit harder to defend, but on the other hand, doesn't have the same chance of sort of, well, having sort of blocking there or some partisans appearing. So some thoughts as well in that regard. Hopefully that should give people a bit of a clear idea of Faymonville approach and how to approach it. Never mind. But overall, a pretty interesting map. And again, you know, some buildings that need to definitely be taken into consideration one way or another. So hopefully with this you'll be having a bit of a clearer understanding of Faymonville approach, a stronger understanding of how to play it, how to defend on it, how to get the most out of it as humanly possible and become a better player. And if you did, you know, feel free to subscribe, tell your friends, share it with everyone, and also, you know, disable ad block if you use that. That would be very much appreciated. And otherwise, you know, keep on watching, and this is Imperial Danes, cheers, and thank you all.